Hello everybody, this is the Ginger Project, and what we're going to be doing today is we brought in a special friend here. As you can see, Dakota sits right beside me. Would you like to say hi, Dakota?
Hello.
So what's going on today is we're actually, something that Dakota brought up to me was the terms of service within YouTube and the ads that is actually being produced. Now this is going to be interesting because what's happened is we've discovered there's actually many differentiating rules that appears to be on YouTube compared to what the producers and channel creators have to deal with. Anyway, Miss Dakota, would you like to bring up anything on the intro topic, something that you know we'll be discussing about through the video?
What I know is that we are going to be discussing through the video is ads throughout the game. Different games is going to be the next video. Sorry, but ads that you can get throughout watching videos on YouTube Kids and the normal YouTube platform itself.
Alrighty, so now that we got that figured out and we're going to be discussing that out, thank you for the lovely intro, Dakota. This is actually going to help me. So the first thing I do want to bring up is what's going to happen when you go to start a child's account. I went through the basic setup, which I basically understand that every person out there with a child has done this. Now, I don't blame you for not looking at the complete set of rules and all the parental consent that is in the terms of service, but it actually gets pretty questionable. Dakota, can you please tell us what it was like when you ran a child's YouTube account? So, what did you encounter when you were watching a child's what's the word I'm looking for? A child's video. So you went to YouTube Kids, you watched a video through there. Can you please explain to me how it seems that there isn't very equal advertising when it comes from YouTube itself compared to creators because of the things you've seen on YouTube Kids? Can you please
Of
tell me?
course, and before we put, because YouTube sometimes can get sore bums about this topic, I would like to put a bit of a disclaimer that we will talk about this. So I had set up an account properly with an adult's email of 18 plus, Ginger's email that he had let me use. I had set it up. I clicked on. I started searching up different video ideas in the YouTube, in the YouTube Kids thing. But as I was doing that, I searched up Markiplier, as if some of you watch Markiplier, you will know that he sometimes isn't, and I quote, like air quote, kid friendly. He does have a couple words in it. So I searched up Markiplier. His main channel hadn't popped up, which is good. So then I searched up a bunch of different creators, such as Dan TDM, which is kid friendly, Markiplier, who isn't necessarily kid friendly, and a couple others that I can't remember off the top of my head. So then I searched up horror, and it came up but saying that maybe you should try searching for something else, which is good. And then I clicked on a video, and to my surprise, which I've been sick and tired of watching, was a political ad. I on YouTube Kids, I had seen a political ad that was about a conservative not giving proper, like, yada to healthcare workers, which I find insane because I am under the age of 18, and everybody who is on YouTube Kids is most likely under the age of 18 unless it's an adult checking, of course. But what I find just not great is that there was a political ad on YouTube Kids which is rated, made, and shown for children and under the age of 13, actually.
And I would like to say that is an amazing point, and probably one of the strongest ones we're going to start with is the political content that is being expressed in children's videos, not by the creators themselves, because quite actually the YouTube algorithm, sorry, a little bit of slur there, does focus on the very words that are being used within videos when a content creator puts them up. Now, the issue with that is now that, as you can hear from Dakota, that the children themselves, underneath this study that we did, are being exposed to political ads. This could be tied to the part of the terms of service I do want to go over with, but in no way should a child be expressing political ads, because there's no way that a child at the age of 13 would be able to understand the context of political jargon, whether you're telling this child through an ad that this group did this or this group did that, even though as an adult we actually understand the jargon in that, and it is not fully truthful of what they're saying. The child themselves could be led astray into a path if you're going to have a selective political party specifically use the YouTube Kids algorithm to present political opinions to kids, when the children themselves are not capable of understanding the very components that are within the context of that political ad. Now, I also do state this: I firmly believe that adults and parents should be always checking on what their kids going through. I do. That's why I always make sure that I have my account signed in on my child's device, because I'm actually able to monitor and see what she is looking up, and whether she knows it or not, she has enough trust and I have enough trust with her that I can just grab her tablet and ask and say, hey, I'm looking at your history, and I'm going to be looking through everything, and there's many things that I can do to find out in that history to make sure that my child is not being exposed to any kind of programming, or being able to see what kind of content she is looking up. This would be something that every parent does, but what happens lately is there's going to be no contextual ability for the parent to stand in unless they're there during the ad. And that is detrimental, because let's face it, parents use and have YouTube because it is great entertainment for children. There is many creators out there that have great programming for children, whether it's helping with them learn with math, whether it's being able to express different things, whether it's a female created content directly for female kids, such as myself, who live in a home where I'm a single dad. I don't have the unique ability as a female. So yes, as the content can be absolutely amazing for children on this, we're also fearing that they're going to be politically biased by the time that they are able to vote, when their information that they are looking up should be by themselves or educated by the parents that can be the best with a non-biased system, so the child can choose their political side. But yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Dakota, for bringing that up. That is a very important topic. Now, the next thing that I would like to bring up, since Dakota just had the last topic, and I would like your opinion on it, Dakota. When you are going through and you're setting up the child's account, I don't know if you're able to get into the terms and services of what you'll be able to look at, and if you can, frankly, I don't blame you if you didn't remember everything. If you can hear my paper rustling here in the background, I got about 15 different pages of notes here that are all just little, very unique statements within the terms of service. Now, the app activity is what I'm actually looking at right now, and Dakota. When you are using YouTube and YouTube Kids, when that YouTube Kids is actually set through the parent's account, which it has to be done, the parent's account can actually influence your views that you see, so what programming you see and things like that. What I would like to know is, do you believe that the child should not be, the child's media and what is shown to the child should not be influenced by the parents uh, looking up in their views, because a parent may be viewing some very questionable things that child should not see, but is completely acceptable for a child, for an adult to see. There's many things like that, and that's just how the world is. So Dakota, back to my question: do you think the algorithm should be using the parent search to help fill the child's views?
Absolutely not. I do not think that say a parent is searching up something that a child should not be watching, not necessarily illegal for the child to be watching, but something along like news that just a child shouldn't be watching, be a certain group of children should not be watching, because it is not for meant that child. But if a parent is searching up that stuff and the parent wants to watch it, I completely understand. But the child's search should not be influenced by that parent's search history at all.
And thank you for the opinion of somebody who's a little bit younger on that one, Dakota, because it actually does mean a lot that we're getting the proper view as somebody who is actually not truly an adult yet. Because I shamelessly do use and help, and I hope you understand that I'm using you as a source of something I just don't understand anymore, and that is the connection to children. Because as an adult, I don't have the mind. Let's face it, as adults, we all have a bias in our mindsets. We need to be able to step back and hear what's coming from the younger generations, even though sometimes the words they use are very differential to what we grew up with. The very aspect of being able to listen to children and having them express what's going on within different systems that they're exposed to is hugely important. And one thing I do want to bring up in the future, like Dakota said this at the beginning of this episode, we will be discussing not only the gaming industry and how games themselves actually contain ads for children inside of tablets that are incredibly sexualized. And the reason why I'm freely using that word is me and Dakota had a long discussion before this video where she understands that there is going to be words used that she now truly understands the meaning of it, and she actually has a lot of hesitancy towards this. Frankly, we haven't actually had time to look up the terms and services for mobile gaming. That's what I'm going to be after looking up. And the next thing I want to look into is the schooling system and any other authority system that a child is facing without the parent being there to help the child understand what's going on. Because there's a lot of things in the world right now that are heavily affecting what is going on. And a lot of it's in the industry that we use and that we pay for with our taxes to bring up our children. We're trying to bring them up as good, noble citizens, and not something that's been changing. But that's for discussion at a later point in time. Now, Dakota, I'm going to read something here that is going to be directly from the terms of service. It is called the activity controls. Now, this is, I can't say directly from the terms of service because I'm not looking at them directly, and that is my apologies. I don't wish to lie to anyone. This is going to be a cut, so if you will, it's going to be me having notes here and being able to read to you. Alright, Dakota. So, the adults themselves can actually use the ability within the app, the child's app, to have controls over what the child sees. Now, when this child turns 13 years old, the app control actually is viewing the child more or less as an adult. That means that the child has a much more freedom of access. When this happens, do you think that do you think that YouTube should be creating a mid-tier system for the ages between 13 to 18 where you're still going to be heavily restricted in the sexualized content? However, you will be able to have access to, per se, political content and other things like that. Do you think that would be acceptable to move past the 13 years of age all the way to the 18 years of age?
I do believe that would be acceptable on some terms. I do believe that if you are 13 years old, you should be restricted from the the sexualized content on YouTube, which I know exists because it's YouTube and there's people. Come on. But I do not believe that a 13 to 17-year-old should be, well, a 17-year-old would be acceptable, but a 16-year-old, 13 to 16, I do believe that we should not be viewed or shown politicalized content that would change our view on political. Say, throwing out a random name here, Haley was a 14-year-old girl who is in a Catholic school, but she doesn't typically believe in the Catholic religion. There's Haley. Yeah. I believe that Haley should not be exposed to the political content at 14 years of age. Now Haley has turned 15. She's now 15. I believe that she should be very lightly exposed to political content, say school votes or whatever, or stuff like that. 16, Haley now should be not heavily, but not lightly involved in political content. I do believe Haley should now be able to look up and understand the political content. Haley is now 17. She should be heavily introduced to political content. I do agree with that you have to be 18 years of age to vote, though, so you should still be taught here and there, no matter what age, what political content is, even if it's just a little sprinkle or if it's heavily introduced, kind of like, say, someone gets a smack of reality.
Um, and I do like how what you brought up in that context was the ability for children within the school system to partake in a civics style voting system where they would have a class president at the age of 14 to 15 years old. Even in the earlier stages of grade 8, being able to understand that there is a hierarchy within society that you are completely able to join and totally become part of, which is important, to be honest. It is very important that the average citizen is involved in the political hierarchy that is what we vote for. And as a young child, Dakota, not young by any means, that is a misnomer in my words, I guess, what a middle-aged child, so a young teenager or something. I'm very proud of her, to be honest, for how old she is. She should be exposed to civics, and what I mean by civics is the very concept that voting matters. A very individual vote matters because if you don't have a proper individual voting system where a person doesn't see their vote as mattering, then you'll have a completely broken down system because that will be infectious. That will spread very wide. And I do see that when I talk to friends of my own age, being into almost mid 30s, I have discovered that a lot of my people who I associate myself with feel defeated in voting. And they need to teach that in school that every vote counts. It doesn't matter, and I don't think that the average person truly deserves to have a voice publicly and politically if they do not vote, if they do not take the time to study the politics that are leading the generations. And unfortunately, talking quite heavily about this, but Dakota does have it right. In my point of view, is as the child ages in the school system, they should be more brought into the political system, but in a non-biased way, where you're going to be getting information from both sides. Because let's face it, we have to understand that both political sides lie. They both tell fibs. They both manipulate information, and that is a very disgusting thing. But as a child, we need to be teaching our children in the school system that manipulation happens in political parties, and it's going to be no different in the classroom as well. You're going to have kids going around and saying, hey, if you vote for me, I will make sure to buy you this chocolate milk, or hey, if you vote for me, I'll make sure to get you this book that you've been really liking. And that is a very minor but very relevant view of showing that the political corruption that can happen in the real world. And you're an idiot to say that it doesn't happen. So we need to be able to teach our children this. Now, when it is viewed heavily with YouTube and at a very young age, like Dakota said, after 14, they actually have a developed mindset, and it should be introduced into the schools, the mindset of political hierarchy, because this does matter. It is a very, very important thing for the teenagers and adults to see. But this video is trying to express that YouTube is being biased as per usual. YouTube, you can suck a Mars bar and realize that you can't be doing this to our children. Dakota is a very precious individual to me, and I don't have every hour, every minute of every day to make sure she's being exposed to everything. That's a snow plowing parent. That doesn't work. She needs to strive and struggle. However, when she's being introduced to something that she can't question because it adds 15 seconds and she's just being inundated with information that isn't wholly explained or contextualized for her, I think that's going to be a huge problem. Now, Dakota, that is what the end of the things that I want to bring up. Can you please bring up anything that you would like to talk about when it comes to this video and what's going on with ads and everything else on YouTube?
Yes. Quite recently, actually, before this video, I was getting a bit nervous because this is one of my first very serious videos that I cannot make jokes in, and that because I was starting to have a bit of a panic attack like I do because that's me. So I was listening to music, and right before it, I was getting I got a 15-second non-skippable ad about this game that I have on my tablet at the moment. That was it, it was extremely sexualized and extremely everything about that. And I believe that ad should have not been there in the first place at all.
And that's something that we can touch on here too, because this happens a lot in the ads too, not just the political jargon, but also the sexualized content within the ads. There is, if you go on Facebook, there is Ganashi Adventures or whatever the heck you want to call it, but it is heavily noted to be for adults. Yet this is in the public view of any type of Facebook connection. Um, we would be idiots to say that a child doesn't have a Facebook account. It is social media. They use very other things. I know Facebook is dying out for the newer generations, and they have other ones like TikTok and things like that. I do need to become more educated in that scenario, but I also understand no matter what media account that a child is operating, they're going to be exposed to some very, very dicey stuff. I've looked over the shoulder of my daughter and I've seen these ads myself, and she's showing me these ads. And what am I going to tell her? Don't play these games that you really enjoy, and some of these games help her. They introduce mathematics and things like that, and that's what these games are geared towards. However, in the middle of these games, when a child is supposed to be working on a very stringent mathematical system that she's not being directly exposed to, but per se it's in Minecraft and she's trying to figure out or watch a video or anything along those lines of trying to understand something that she needs to do in Minecraft, and then she's engaged, she's thoroughly enjoying that video, then all of a sudden that video breaks down in no control over the operator or the person who's creating that content. This ad that has to say, hey, if you're not beautiful to this standard, you're not socially acceptable. And this goes for all standards. It doesn't matter if you're big, 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 or it doesn't matter if you're tiny, 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 or anything in between. It doesn't matter. These types of videos and these types of scenes should not be exposed to kids because a child doesn't understand the context of beauty. And that is very disturbing to me, that a child's being exposed to what is socially beautiful. Dakota, I do feel bad that you're exposed to that, because as a child, as who needs to understand that you are a beautiful individual. All children are beautiful. They don't need to be inundated with the idea that you have to make a certain way of your life to be considered socially beautiful. You're intelligent, you're smart, you have amazing thoughts that are not blocked down by the deconstructive criticism that society shows to you. This is disgusting. It should not be brought to a child's life this very early. And these are games that are being advertised for the ages that are young. But yeah, that's a very disturbing one, and I do think that these advertisers and things out here that are actually adding these ads, because let's face it, if you can have an algorithm that does what it does on YouTube, you can simply have an algorithm that chooses the ads and what ads are being used. You can have an information pool that are separated, so everything at this from this point on, from this age, in this bracket, you cannot use these ads. Like, it doesn't seem that hard to me. I'm not the most computer wizardy person. As you can see from my videos, they're getting better and better, but however, it doesn't change the fact that somebody with a simple contextual understanding of information can make these thoughts. What's up with these companies? But these companies know that sex sells, and it's terrible because it's our children who are going to be most heavily affected by that. I hope you feel the same way, Dakota. I hope you feel that the adults in your life that love you don't want you to be pressured by society, but we also understand that society is and indoctrinating you in a way with these ads. So we do hope, as an honest adult, that our children know that they're perfect the way they are. Every child suffers differently. However, as long as you're young and healthy and you're not 600 pounds, I don't think it's up to the world to just tell you that you're beautiful or not. It's up to you when you look in the mirror.
Yeah, I would also like to bring up one thing that's related to this, but also not 100% related. To anybody out there who's watching this that feels like everybody is judging them, it's actually in psychology. It's called the imaginary audience. Everybody goes through it and deals with it. And that's kind of what gets me through the day today, wearing something that I'm not necessarily comfortable with. Like today, I had a crop, not a full on crop top. It was more like of a crop sweater. If I were to lift my arms up, it would expose a little bit of my stomach. But if I had to keep my arms down, it wouldn't. And I get very socially inconfident about wearing something like that. But it's just called the imaginary audience.
And I do wish to express too that yes, Dakota is my daughter. Dakota is not her real name, of course. But one thing I do need to express to everybody too is Dakota's reaching the age that she needs to have self confidence in her own beauty, and the clothing I choose to allow her to wear, I'm very, very, very not controlling, but very, what's the word I'm thinking of? I don't want my daughter thinking that OnlyFans is an option, and I don't want her leading in the way that thinking that her body is the way to succeed. And so, yes, I do let her wear things that make her feel beautiful. I want her to feel beautiful. However, her source of beauty also is very, very clear to her that it doesn't come from how she looks. It comes from how she acts, her character, the way that she is inside. She is a caring person. She has many, many moments in life where she's done things for people where she never had to, but she did them because she cares. And I think that matters. But she also knows that if you dress very, very, the only other word I can think of is slutty. It will leave a very social, strong view of you, and children don't seem to understand that these days. That the way you dress is how people view your value instinctively. So, as terrible as that is, if you go into a job interview with ripped up jeans, you're not getting hired. If you walk down the street dressed like a $2 hooker, that's what every person's going to view you as. It's the truth. I don't know what else you expect out of humanity when humanity kind of sucks in its own way, but it's beautiful in other ways. But that is one of the ways that it sucks. So if you are not willing to accept that take on your back for the rest of your childhood and the rest of your adulthood, because people will remember this, they are not going to value you. So remember, dress beautifully, but don't dress so people lessen the value of you. Please. Same with guys. Come on, dudes. Come on. Be good men. Be good people. Be good humans. We can do this, people. Now that's everything for me. If Dakota wants to close this off with something else, by all means she can. But everybody, I hope you have a wonderful night. Take care, and much love from the Ginger.
Um, yeah. I hope y'all have a wonderful night, have a wonderful day, have a wonderful everything, and please do, if you ever get the time and you're bored and you're on internet, please, if only this is just if you want to, screenshot all the terms of services that you can, look it up, and maybe if you feel like you want to do something, email YouTube, the YouTube platform. I know they have an email. I'm not 100% sure of what it is. I'm sure they have an email out there that you can email them and maybe nicely change a couple things. Now, this is kind of a question for Ginger, but maybe can we put a hashtag in the comments, like hashtag change YouTube's ads, and maybe that could be.
We can we could look into that, but it would have to be a very, 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 very well written statement, because we can work on that. But it also have to be understanding, no limiting speech as well. There is decency in speech, And that's what we want to do. We want to bring decency to the speech that advertisers use because they need to advertise. However, we are hoping to try to achieve some decency and not expose young children to terrible things through the ads. And I think that's a fine line we need to dance on very carefully.
Yes, I agree with you. Now, again, I hope you all have a wonderful night, evening, day, morning, wherever you are. And these are the Gingers closing out.
You guys take care. One last wave. Much love, everybody. Take care and
Much
bye
love.
now.
Bye.